Help protect us from racism and xenophobia by becoming an I Love Black People ambassador today. Join on iloveblackpeople.com. No matter where you are in the world, join us today and get access to the I Love Black People network. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.
And welcome to another edition of I Love Black People. And we've been blessed to have our amazing big brother, amazing, dynamic professor, Dr. Todd Shern. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much for all you do and continue to do for us.
Okay, well, thank you for all those compliments all in a row. My mother is gone, so I'm glad to have someone that thinks of me that highly.
Well, no, we definitely think of you highly, and we really, this is the perfect time to talk about what you do and continue to do to help us as we recap the Black Blockchain Summit that took place at Howard University in the interdisciplinary research building that was, really built under the vision of Dr. Gary L. Harris, who we also recognized and honored with the reception that you hosted. Let's talk about some of the takeaways with the students and some of the things you continually do in your body of work in the Black community, as well as as a computer scientist extraordinaire.
So, one of the things that we were really pleased about was the participation of the students in the Yard Hack. We call it Yard Hack because it's on the yard at Howard University. So, we got to bring our own flavor to it. The students really got into looking at how blockchain could advance several initiatives. So there are three groups that placed, and one of them was looking at NIL. They actually looking at NIL and NFT, and one of the things that they put forward, which was a pretty hot little application, and I don't know, they want me doing too much talking about it, so they might be in my ear telling me to shut up. But
but we talked about intellectual property at the summit, so I think that would be apropos. So however you want to handle that, we did have the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, but please continue.
So for sure. One of the things about IP and the creators of IP is that if you only have one idea, then you're not going to last very long anyway.
Go ahead.
So what they were proposing is to be able to generate a NFT string, a hash, and then be able to have folks basically put this hash on some content for free. So the string would be generated for free. You put the hash on the content for free, and then as the content is being sold, then they get a little bit for their string being the NFT that locks it down. So it's basically a no risk to the artists, and for the student group that's going to provide these hash, it's an opportunity for them to be able to benefit from artists who are actually able to sell their product, be it music, video, visual, or whatever else. So that was one of the ideas. There was another one that was a little further fetched, which was to create a mechanism to convert, we call it cryptocurrency to in fiat. So it's like, all right, let's say you want to go from Ethereum to Deutschmarks, or you want to go from Bitcoin to pesos, or you want to go from whatever to whatever. They're looking at having an app that could facilitate that. And then the last group was looking at just basically tokenized mining that could be used to barter electrical energy or power. That was kind of a derivation of the Wave protocol.
Awesome. And you know what? I think what's important in the way you talk about these things, you're so familiar. I'd be remiss if I didn't give the listeners some of your background. They say people care about what you know once they know you care. Why don't you just give us this little quick background and why you know so much and can talk so well and do what you do with our young people as well as with these technology. What's the story behind Dr. Todd Shern?
Well, I've been in the game for a minute. You know, I'm an OG when it comes to computer science, when it comes to smart cities, when it comes to working with African American youth in the pipeline. And so as a result of that, I've kind of learned to put what appeals to young people in front, and then try to give them the one foot in front of the other of how to get where they're trying to be. And so that is really, you know, what has sustained my progress over the last 30 years as a computer science faculty at Howard. And, you know, with that perspective, I've worked with everyone from, you know, the big boys, Microsoft and Google, to the school districts from, you know, DC public schools, Chicago public schools, Detroit public schools, and then with the Army, primarily working with officers, ROTC here on Howard's campus, and also a team from West Point that's tried to instill leadership to youth throughout the community. But it's still the same thing, just trying to put that goal in front of them, and then, you know, one foot in front of the other, and just show them how to get there. And then sometimes we have folks who are there who we can put in front of them so that they can see that one foot in front of the other actually will lead you there over time. And it could be a short time depending on your idea and your concept and how fast you put those feet together.
No, I think that's awesome. And thank you. I think we don't do enough because, again, your role behind the scenes in some cases where you're literally helping them shooting in the gym. You know, you weren't there where you were there with a lot of folks shooting in the gym. You was there when I was shooting in the gym. So we definitely thank you for with those footsteps and guidance. And again, that experience over 30 years is definitely something that only a lifetime could actually be a reflection of. So thank you on that. So let's tell me more about what some of the takeaways you got from the Black Blockchain Summit at prestigious Howard University.
So one of the things I thought was really interesting, and it's just that there still were a lot of people who are very bullish on the long-term prospects of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. You know, right now with things, you know, taking a little dive in terms of where they were previously, there might have been the thought that people were less enthusiastic, but that wasn't the case. People, not only were they were actually more enthusiastic. They're like, yo, this is the time to get in. Okay, this is the time to buy. This is the time to be about it. And you need to take advantage of this time now so that in a year or two or whatever cycle it turns out to be, you're able to be on the upside, because, you know, they're convinced that the upside is coming, and it's going to come, and it's going to be more upside than it was the last time. And so you want to be a part of that wave. There's also a lot of just discussion back and forth about regulation and light touch regulation. And so we had congressmen from both sides of the aisle, which was really interesting because they had different perspectives. And then Senator Cory Booker laid out his 2024 presidential campaign, but he still was very bullish on the potential of Bitcoin, of crypto, of blockchain to actually impact change. And so the real crux of where the debate is now is what the form of regulation that it should take in order to protect innovation, protect incentive, give people the aspiration that they need to be creative, but yet protect investors, you know, because there's scammers out there. Everybody knows that. And so it's that balance that we're seeking as entrepreneurs, as developers. And then from an investment point of view, you know, we don't want Mr. Man in our business, but we also don't want, you know, the scammer shaking us down. So that play was really, really interesting. And there never was, at the summit, there never was a real answer to it, which you couldn't expect that there would be. But the benefit wasn't necessarily the answer, but it was that the right questions that were being asked. So if you're on the investor side and you were listening, there were a number of questions that you might ask before you engage in any investment. If you're a developer, there were a number of questions that you might ask before you engage in any development. So it was that element where there was just this back and forth about what the direction of the market was going to be, what is the direction of regulation going to be, and how one might position themselves relative to their own interests.
I think you really kind of captured really a 30,000 foot, and especially for folks who are in the space, we talk about crypto winters, meaning that this might be a slow period, but this is not financial advice, but literally the time to get in is when things are at the bottom, and instead of waiting until it rises too quickly to the top, and now you're so caught up in the frenzy, you're not able to actually take advantage of it. So I think the point you're making about how in times like this is a great time to learn, get involved, and then as far as taking a conceptual look, the regulatory framework of how we're operating, it seems to be like so much going on in that space. It literally gives us time to kind of study that and take advantage of some of the great people that were able to participate, like you said, with the Congress members, senators, like Senator Cory Booker. Like these are all folks who are in real time making decisions in this space, and having all those folks come together at the Black Blockchain Summit to literally share their vision and how that relates to our community is important for us to be able to take that and empower ourselves and empower our, inform our actions as innovators, as entrepreneurs and developers, as you said. With that being said, what were some of the things that, again, as it relates to on the technical side, maybe that you could kind of share that you thought was maybe different from previous conferences, that were things that were being brought up that might be a little different? Anything that you noticed different from the previous conference since you've been instrumental from day one, Dr. Todd Shern?
So one thing, and I wouldn't say it was different, but there was just a lot more emphasis on quote unquote digital assets, right? Before we were talking about blockchain or we were talking about crypto, but the title, this domain of digital assets, it wasn't as emphasized as it was this year. I mean, everybody was like, okay, it's about having a digital asset and being able to protect it. And so, that really spoke to the increasing presence of NFTs, but also the extension of blockchain, which would include smart contracts beyond just your basic crypto or your basic trade. I mean, there was this whole ecosystem that was spoken to that was of such magnitude that it had to be protected, right? It had to be considered kind of its own thing. And that term, what digital assets, was something that was emphasized this year in this conference more than any conference up to this point.
No, I think that's a good point. And again, I think as the industry matures and there's so many new developments, it's probably we don't even know what next year will hold. And that's, I think, why it's so important for us to stay engaged, keep our community on the forefront of all these things that are changing. But talking about keeping our community engaged and staying on the forefront, I think we made a very significant contribution in the memory of Dr. Gary L. Harris, and with the reception. Maybe you can kind of expound on Dr. Gary L. Harris. I mean, some of our listeners may not know of some of the brilliant innovators that have come out of our community. What would you have to say about what we did and what's been done and who he is?
So this is a person that was an innovator in a number of respects, in a number of domains. He was electrical engineering faculty member. He had several patents in semiconductors. He was also I would say a pioneer in material science, particularly semiconducting material science. So he led a coalition, as you heard one of the folks testify, is that the lab that he put together at Howard was really second to none in testing something called gallium arsenide. They have to excuse me on that one, GA. which no other lab on the eastern coast of the United States had the capability of the lab that he created. And so as a result of that, this lab was doing millions of dollars in research testing of various materials, and he was the innovator of that. So in addition to that, he invented a helmet that would measure the impact of a tackle with a device that allowed a coach to stand on the sideline and see, the G forces that players were receiving from football contact. This guy is like George Washington Carver. I mean, he developed some nano material. I know your listeners gonna laugh, say this dude is nuts. He developed some nano material that you could put in your socks and your feet wouldn't stink. Okay, it was like these nanoparticles, and you put them in your sock, and you could go out and run, play ball, do whatever you want, and take off your socks, and they would have no odor. And so he developed a script for Sinbad to sell to Walt Disney about, some Sinbad was stopping like bullets, kind of through, brain waves. He, as you know, he was one of the people that was instrumental in getting the Black Blockchain Summit launched. So he just, that was how many things, like 4 or 5 things that he just did. And so this guy, he went undergrad at Cornell. Matter of fact, I believe he did his bachelor's all the way through his PhD at Cornell. And then he and another one of his Cornell classmates, Black, Dr. Mike Spencer, they came to Howard and they created this fabulous materials research center of excellence. And then, Dr. Harris actually managed that until his unfortunate passing a couple years ago. Dr. Spencer went on to become the dean of engineering at Morgan State. Then he went back to Cornell with a very prestigious fellowship appointment. And then now he has returned to Morgan as an interim chair. So he's been involved. I'm thinking of Dr. Harris now. He's been involved in a lot of things. One of the things that he was most proud of is all the African Americans that either he got through PhDs through Howard, through Harvard, through MIT, through Michigan. So he didn't just impact Howard. He impacted the Black folks in electrical engineering, particularly in semiconductors and material science nationally. He was nationally renowned for that.
Even internationally, right?
Yeah.
I heard the Persian brothers from Iran talking about how, they were doing things that no one in the world were doing.
That's through that lab that he developed at Howard, the Material Science Research Center of Excellence, MSRCE, was well renowned for the work they were doing. And they were right there. They were right there with MIT, with Stanford, with Michigan. Yes, they were.
So, with his legacy, what do you think, we should remember most that would help the listeners understand who he was and what he means to us, and even some of the young folks? What would you say, about his legacy and lasting impact?
So it's kind of back to the 1 foot in front of the other and don't let anyone stop you. That was his motto. He just put 1 foot in front of the other and didn't let anyone stop him. So an example of that was when he developed that sensor for the impact of the helmet. Everybody kept saying, hey, you little nuts here. Are you sure you're going to be able to do this? And he kept doing it until finally he got the call from the NFL. Okay, and they were like, hey, let's see this. And there was, I don't know if listeners are familiar with the Curlin Job Clinic, but one of the world-renowned clinics in Los Angeles took an interest in what he was doing. And it was all because he put 1 foot in front of the other and he never stopped. And, one of the things that You know, I always say, which is sad, but from his deathbed, he was still designing his course for the next semester. He had an idea for a new course, and so he was actually writing it down as he was dying in hospice. And when people would come to say, "Hey, you know, what a great life, and we're going to really miss you," he was talking about his course that he was going to teach in the spring. Okay, this is October, and so he's in hospice, and they told him he got like a month to live, and he's not hearing any of that. He's like, in January, I'm gonna beat this, and we're gonna teach this course. And so that is the thing that I thought many of the young people who attended the reception, they took away. They took away just his zest for life, and you can kind of see it through the pictures. His zest for life. He was the bison. For people who don't know, and I'm skipping over some of the things that he did, but there's something that's really popular here. It's called the Washington Science and Engineering Festival, and that's at the convention center. So in fact, I think it may not even be called Washington. I think it might be called, let me give it credit. It's called the USA Science and Engineering Festival. And it's at the Washington Convention Center. And Dr. Harris was one of the primary motivators behind that. He was a founder of that. And it's a biannual, every 2 year conference. And it has been dormant for the past few years because of COVID. But I suspect that it will be reconstituted next spring. In addition to that, he created this mobile nanotechnology lab that was on wheels with electron microscopes, with etching devices, so that people who didn't know what nanotechnology is, which is 10 to the minus 9, which is like 100th the size of the human hair, he would put that lab on the road. So he didn't drive, he would fly, but he had his people drive it, all over the country. So folks in inner cities, again, would be able to see things that were nanoscale, which is 10 to the minus 9.
Wow. A life worth living. Go ahead, Dr. Gary L. Harris. We honor you, we remember you, we cherish you, and we continue our work through and because of you. Wow, that's hot. Well, look, I mean, I think that was the piece that really meant. I think also the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office coming, having the commissioner show, I think that was a big deal. Sister came, and she was a Howard alum, and actually Dr. Harris was one of her professors. Did you get a chance to talk with her at all?
Yeah. In fact, had a real good conversation with her. Her name is Valencia Martin Wallace, and she's a Howard alum, and she was one of his students. And she was actually inspired by him because he had several patents. And so that's one of the things that kind of led her to the USPTO, was just engaging with him about his patents and some of the things that he had to go through to get them. She kind of was say, okay, well, maybe I can be a part of making the ride to the journey to a patent a little smoother for the next person. But the issue is, certainly having the patent to protect your IP, but also being able to license that patent to other people and profit from it in a way that is immutable.
Yeah, and I thought she was talking about the commercialization of patents, so they are useful, that you can actually benefit from them. And I think, again, your computer science, as a mechanical engineer, I know that from Tuskegee to Howard, the curriculums in general with engineering students doesn't really talk about how to protect or even intellectual property as a thing. We're taught how to, senior project, you're kind of pulling all the things you learn together to actually make something, but to protect what you make is something that doesn't really happen as much or as frequently as we should. I thought that was very interesting. I think I would love to see, even moving forward, us to do more to support that sister and support the cause of intellectual property. Because I think it was even a sister who was in School of Communication talking about, and trademarking. And I mean, it seemed like that is, as a people, we've had our innovations stolen and we've been erased and someone else taking credit for it.
And
then we wonder,
right?
yeah, and then we wonder where we were, but we literally were right there that somebody just took it. So have you thought about any of those things on the lines of intellectual property as we wrap it up? Or
that's actually that's actually part of the value of an NFT, right? Because with an NFT, you can lock it down, and that was the basic concept behind the winning team, which is trying to provide a means for people to protect their IP that is within their reach. So you can get a hash or basically a security string for your artifact, for your invention, for your IP, and you don't have to pay anything for it. And then it's only when you sell your invention or your artifact that you're going to owe a small percentage of that to this company. And so that gets to your idea and locking it down essentially for free. And then what you will be doing is you'll be giving up some commission, but only on the products that you sell. So if you don't sell any, then you don't get it. But 100% of zero is zero, but 97% of 100 million is quite a bit.
Look, thank you so much, sir. And as we wrap up, I always say I am because we are. I definitely wouldn't be me without you. Humbly, with the utmost deference, thank you. Continued much success. We're still just getting started. I know you got many chapters left.
Help protect us from racism and xenophobia by becoming an I Love Black People ambassador today. Join on iloveblackpeople.com. No matter where you are in the world, join us today and get access to the I Love Black People network. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.